Anyhow, the thing that I had starting July 28th, I had a very bad bout of pancreatitis, which put me on the shelf for 5.5 months. I was very sick, and I had the support, prayers and thoughts and all kind of communications from immediate family, extended family, friends, relatives, acquaintances, people that work in this building, people that live in this building called the Gateway Towers in downtown, people in the building we work in, attorneys, friends of mine, people in the court system, judges, and everybody sent their best wishes. That, along with the army of doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals that took care of me, is the reason I'm here today. And my higher power, and you know, it's really wonderful that I was able to be discharged almost a month ago, and I'm up walking now without the use of a cane when I'm inside the apartment. And if I venture outside the building here, I use a cane. So I'm still a little bit weak, but everything seems to be going good. So, and I've been very blessed to have one niece and a bunch of nephews, and then I was struck by the number of times that people would come in and visit me in the hospital. I was in the supermarket this afternoon, and I saw a friend of mine that I had known from another thing I did a few years ago, and I had this perception that he had come to see me in the hospital. I thought, no, my mind must be tricking me, and he had. And it was like one of those things that you get when you think, was that real or was it not real? But it was real. So I just happened to see him today in the supermarket. It was really wonderful. I'd like to acknowledge Kathleen, although I went through quite an ordeal with this recent illness. They said I might not make it several times, but Kathleen was a champ. She kept the office going, and she kept our home going, and she came to see me, and she bird dogged the doctors and nurses for information. She communicated with relatives and friends about the nature of my illness and prospects for recovery, and something that some people might not know, but I just want you to know the level of dedication that this lady has brought to getting me better. Was in the summertime, in the fall, when they wouldn't let her in sometimes into the ICU unit where I was. She would either sleep in the waiting room, or she'd go out into the parking garage where our car was parked and go to sleep in the back seat of the car until she could come back in. She was quite the dedicated wife, always has been, always been there for me. She's always been there for any of her relatives. Anybody that knows Kathleen and knows the Plummer family, the Ruby family, Lex and his family, we're all proud to be associated with each other and to be related to each other. Everybody is very turned on. It's a very turned on family, and I appreciate being a part of it.
And I just wanted to add that I wanted to acknowledge all people in our family who have been so supportive over the last 6 months of me and Jim. And people would constantly call and come and visit and offer their support in any way they could. And it's been overwhelming, really. So.
I got together with Kathleen in November of '84, and then on January 4 of '85, she said, let's go up and see my sister Amy's twins that were just born. So we went up there January 4th. They had been born January 2. One is Ashton, the other is Evan. And so I've known the two of them ever since they were 2 days old. And and of course Derek and Adam and Ian, and now their families. Little Adina would come to visit me in the hospital, and she touched my heart in the biggest way. She'd come over. She actually did up a book. She wrote up a book for me with her art drawings, and it was the most pretty thing that a child her age, I think, could have composed. She was really very talented, and she was very sweet. All the grandkids have been very, very, very sweet. Ian and Amber will bring their children in Sunday afternoon to see me. It meant a huge amount to me.
Molly is one of the nicest people I know. Yeah, every time I'm with her, she always makes me laugh. But she is so considerate and very, very caring. She's really an amazing person. And we have all had our own trials and tribulations. Molly has gone through a couple of different lives. She started out working on computers, and then she made a complete life change. And I think that I'm sure that the person that she is now was always in there, but when she made her career change to counseling, it really came out. She really began to shine as who she is. I probably have funny stories, but when I was a kid, I was always so sorry that I was never going to be as old as Molly. That really bothered me, and now I'm absolutely thrilled about it. We shared a room, and I'd have trouble sleeping, I guess, at night, and I'd want her to get up in the middle of the night and play with me. And I'd say, Molly, get up, let's play paper dolls. And she'd say to me, count to 100, and then I'll get up and play with you. And I'd lie there and count and count and count. And then I'd wake her up and she'd say, count to 100 again. Instead of just saying to me, go back to sleep, you little brat, she came up with this little theory or tactic to try to get me to just go back to sleep. That's pretty good. I guess that was the start of her true life right there. Kathy, well, the story that my mother always told me about Kathy was that she was 7.5 years old when I was born, and she went all around the neighborhood and knocked on everybody's door and told them that she had a new baby sister. And I think that my mother handed me off to her probably too often, but she apparently pushed me all around, took care of me a lot. And I can remember when my sisters were teenagers, particularly when Molly was in junior high, my mother would try to get them to take me with, they didn't like that at all. But we had a lot of fun. I learned how to dance and how to be a young girl, do makeup, that sort of thing. One of the things that I remember about Kathy is that Kathy also painted when she was in high school, and she gave me paints and canvas, and I did my first painting because of that. So I have her to thank for that.
I do have one funny story. It was actually the night after our wedding. We were heading to our honeymoon, and Aunt Molly's very schedule driven. So we tried to tell her that Charleston, West Virginia is a really small airport, but she still insisted to get to the airport like 2 hours ahead of her flight. So 2 hours later we show up and she's still waiting at the airport because her flight hasn't taken off. So she was definitely on time.
She was on time. And I think we left before her flight did.
We did.
I've got a story about Molly, actually. It's a good one. When I first met Amy many years ago, we were 16 going on 17, and Molly and Kathy, her older sister, if there is even one older than Molly, which is Kathy, they used to do this song, and it was Sisters, and I think it's from the movie White Christmas, but anyway, it was really corny, and they were all like really happy about they could sing Sisters, and I can't remember it, but it was very funny, and that was their act for many years.
Jeff and I were I don't know how old we were, maybe 6 and 8, maybe 8 and 10, I don't know. We were pretty young, and we were living in the Park Merced apartment complex in San Francisco, and there was a much bigger boy who was picking on us and had actually hit me in the face with a tennis racket, and he was threatening Jeff and I a lot. So we ran home, told Mommy, and she stormed out of the house with us and hunted this kid down. And she found him. He was, I don't know how old he was. He might have been 15 or 16, I don't know. But she found him, and he was hiding in the parking garage, which is an outdoor garage. And she walked up to him and pinned him up against the wall. Yeah, not with her hands, but she got up in his face, and he was so afraid of her because of the way that she was acting towards him in a very hostile manner. And after she was done threatening him for what he had done to us, it was almost as if we could tell that the guy had peed his pants, because she had just really was defending her kids so much, and that really was the first lesson that I ever had about how parents feel towards their kids, and the kind of rage that can come out of them, and how they have an instinct to defend their kids. So I'm still very happy that Mom did that for us.
I would just like to say that I love my mother-in-law with all of my heart, and she's taught me a lot about being a good mother-in-law, and hopefully one of these days when I have daughters-in-law, I can be a good mother-in-law to them also. So thank you very much for this weekend, Molly. We've had a great time.
Yeah, it was a really great time. I'm so glad. This is the first family reunion I've had with blood relatives that I can think of in my life. Yeah.
We love you.
Love you, Mom.
Every time she visits us, she wants to go out to breakfast at the Pancake House, which is a great experience always. We love this place. And every single time we go, she puts too much cream in her coffee. And every time we go, she has to flag down the waitress and say, "I'm sorry, I put too much cream in my coffee."
And every time we remind her that she's going to put too much cream in her coffee, but she does it anyway, and then asks for more coffee.
She'll understand. It's an inside thing.
It is an inside joke.
That is the one funny thing I will never forget about Molly.
That's very Mom, yes.
That and her dropping the cake on you.
Yeah, that was funny too.
Anyway, we love you, Molly. You bring a lot of life to the family. So, until next time.
Definitely. Love you.
One time we went to DC, and we had all, I forget what the occasion was. It was the first time we met Uncle Jim Maddox, and we got into our hotel, checked in, and we walked through the parking lot, and we were about to meet Aunt Molly. It was late and it was dark, and we actually saw Aunt Molly coming in the distance. Excuse me. We saw her coming in the distance, and we started walking towards her. She starts saying, "Do I know you?" We all thought it was hilarious for some reason. You don't need to use that story. It's not as funny as I remember it. But
I vaguely remember one time, I think I was 3 or 4 years old, Aunt Molly and I put on a little play for the family. I think it was like Christmas time. And it was something, I mean, I was young, I don't really remember much, but she reminds me about it. Something about a king, and she brought me a pie, and what was that it? Something about putting a thumb in a pie. She would be better at explaining it.
I've been so blessed my entire life with, we call my good genes from the Logan family and my mother's side of the family, the Greiners. So part of what happened when I got sick is I started to hear from cousins of mine that I hadn't heard from for years. So even though sometimes things look like they're not the best thing for you, in the long run they might be the best thing for you, because for me it's re-emphasized the importance of family and relatives and friends. You know, there's nothing more important to me than all that.